Jeep is in trouble, and it's probably their own fault. Have you heard? Recently it was announced that Jeep sales are way down. Most notably, the Jeep Gladiator by something like 24%. And overall, about 300,000 or so less than last year. Even our beloved Jeep Wrangler, specifically the two-door, is down as well. And of course, the four-door version too. Now, is it their fault? Yeah, I would say it probably is their fault for a couple of reasons. One, what the hell is it with the prices on Jeeps? They are exorbitantly expensive. Why is that? I mean, has Jeep or Mopar or Stellantis or whoever owns them these days, have they been gouging us on pricing, and now we finally have woken up and decided, you know what, we're not paying these high prices? I mean, I have seen Jeep Gladiators priced as high as $60-some thousand, pushing $70-some thousand. For a Jeep Gladiator, I mean, that's getting up into the new Tacoma territory. Not really, it's even higher than that. And yeah, that's a dig on the Tacoma because they've raised their prices as well. That's one of the reasons. Secondly, we've got to look at reliability. I think quality is there. And yeah, I do separate quality from reliability. Quality means to me that everything is, or works, I guess, the way it's supposed to. Fit and finish is good. Hard to mess up fit and finish on a Jeep. The paint is good. That kind of stuff. Reliability means, is it going to continue to run without trouble? Is it going to leave you stranded? Are you going to have to replace things? And that's where I think Jeep has a problem. You know, they have this stupid auto stop system. And part of that, I believe, or at least I thought, was the auxiliary battery. If you didn't know, Jeep has this little motorcycle or lawnmower sized battery stuffed above or down below the fuse panel. It's up above in the fender well area. And it goes bad. And it goes bad rather quickly. 3 years is what I hear typically. Although, in all fairness, my wife's Jeep Wrangler, her battery lasted almost 5.5 years, something like that. Of course, she doesn't drive it very much, so it doesn't get a lot of use. I would think that would make it go bad even quicker, but nonetheless, that's my experience. However, my mother had a Jeep Gladiator that was about 3 years old, and her auxiliary battery went bad. She had to replace it. And I hear that all the time from comments and other people out there in internet world about their batteries going bad. A buddy of mine, Randall, he had the same thing. I believe right around 3 years, give or take a bit, and had to replace his auxiliary battery as well. That's not something that we want to screw with. You know, to do it, it can be done yourself, but frankly, it's a bit of a pain to do. You know, who wants to rip the top of the fuse panel off to access it? And who wants to dive in underneath the fender well? You have to remove the inner fender liner. You got to kind of crawl up in there. You really should take the tire off. It's just a pain to do. So you get to go to the dealership and do it. And that's going to cost you, I'm guessing, somewhere in the probably $300 to $400 range, something like that. For a frickin' battery that, if you've got to have it, Jeep, it should be somewhere that it's accessible to the owner so that we can do it ourselves. I mean, whoever had heard of having to go to a dealership to put a new battery in your vehicle? It's just crazy to me. So I think Jeep kind of brings this on themselves a little bit. Price-wise, reliability, some will call it quality, call it what you want. Nonetheless, it's still a problem. And people know, you know, when you're out there researching Jeeps and you hear problems about the auxiliary battery, I pick on that a lot because it's a problem that most people seem to have. You're going to shy away from it. It's no wonder. Now, there's another reason, and this isn't really Jeep's fault, I don't think, and that's competition. You know, Ford came out with the Bronco, the Jeep killer. And when I first heard that, I thought, oh, that's ridiculous, especially when I saw the Bronco, excuse me. I thought, no way, this isn't going to be a Jeep killer. I mean, and it's a Ford. I was wrong. That's what's being blamed for the most part. is the Ford Bronco, that it's taking a big bite out of Jeep sales. Now, we're not talking about the Wrangler per se, we're talking about the four-door, because of course the Bronco's a four-door as well. They say it's the cool factor. In other words, the Ford Bronco is more cool than the Jeep Wrangler, or Jeep four-door, I guess. I disagree with that. There is no cooler 4x4 or off-road vehicle than a Jeep Wrangler. I mean, it's awesome. I can't believe that people would choose the Ford Bronco over the Wrangler. It just doesn't make sense to me, or even the four-door, but they are. Now, what can Jeep do about that? Boy, that's a tough one, because you see, Jeep and the way it's set up, its iconic look, its style and design, that really can't be changed. If you do, or if Jeep did, they're going to create a whole new or a whole different vehicle. It's not going to look the same. It's not going to be the same. And of course, that's going to turn off the traditionalists out there. I mean, could you imagine if they made the Jeep Wrangler or four-door look more SUV-like than it already does, of course? I mean, it still maintains the Jeep front end, the Jeep rear, all of the cool-looking styling of the Jeep. They would have to change all of that. They might as well just discontinue the brand or the model, because once they do that, we would have something else. And speaking of discontinue, they discontinued the Compass because of poor sales. Now, is that a big loss? Not in my opinion. I wasn't a Compass fan. That's probably one that had to go away. It's kind of like the Honda Element. That was a really ugly thing. I can't believe Honda ever produced it. I'd put the Compass in about the same room as the Honda Element, although I will say the Compass was a bit better looking than the Element was. So there's not a whole lot I don't think Jeep can do about it, other than, one, lower the pricing. They're too expensive. It's just way too much money, in my opinion, to buy a Jeep. It's crazy. There's no reason to spend that kind of money. I don't think the value is there. I think they're way overpriced. And secondly, you've got to come up with some other solution to this auxiliary battery plague that you've put in the Jeep Wrangler. It's got to go, even if that means just sitting it somewhere up top where owners can deal with it themselves. It's just crazy to me that they have it set the way that they do. I mean, other brands, they don't have problems like Jeep does. It seems to be a pandemic when it comes to the Jeep product and that stupid auto stop / auxiliary battery system. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Is Jeep in trouble? Are they on their way out? And what can they do to fix themselves? I'd be curious to hear what you think. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.